There we go.
Someone's order.
Just had to go in.
Does anybody actually want the plates?
I mean, I might use it.
I think people are already done it.
I'll go grab them.
Alright.
Power is just.
You guys aren't hungry or what? Zach, you not hungry?
More likely that one.
What'd you eat?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you have any coffee? That's what it is.
Alright, so today, well, welcome everybody, and whoever's new, thank you for joining us. I will be presenting pretty much like career, job market, skill-based overview as like right now what the field and the industry looks like for us as students, and maybe people who've already had job experience but are getting into this field for the first time, and how your current skills can be transferred over to this arena of computer science. So I'm pretty much going to be going based off of my slides, and forgive me if I stumble here and there, because I am myself new to the computer science field as well. So without further ado, let me go ahead and start the presentation. So this is Sacramento City College Programming Club. We're kicking off our career month for the month of April, leading up to our big April 18th STEM Career Speaker panel. So definitely things that you should know about being a programmer. Programmers are experiencing significant shifts due to advancements in AI and large language models. This is nothing new. I'm sure like we hear about it all the time. But there are like 5 things that stood out to me when I was like looking over this. Me not being anyone proficient in programming and having very minimal exposure through the club. But these were the 5 things that kind of stood out to me when I was looking at this. 1, enhanced productivity. So AI-powered tools like GitHub, Copilot, and Amazon Code Whisper are automating repetitive coding tasks. Maybe some of you are familiar with this, especially with GitHub and with Copilot. So this is allowing programmers to focus on more complex problem-solving skills. And the complex problem-solving was a very repetitive term that I kept coming across as I was putting together this presentation. So there's a point in here where I'll actually be going into like what is this complex problem-solving that the industry is looking at, and why it's important as students to be mindful, because we think of complex problem solving as just like critical thinking, but there's actually something very specific to the computer science and programming sphere where this complex problem solving is important. Skill evolution. So there's a demand for programming expertise, and it's shifting towards areas like AI integration, machine learning, advanced algorithms, routine coding tasks are being replaced by higher level strategic roles. So essentially that last part, when it's saying it's being replaced by higher level strategic roles, it means that literally someone no longer is coming in at an entry level position expecting to just code, right? They're like the employers are not expecting that at a base level. They're handing those tasks off to someone, like maybe in a junior or senior level to do something like that. And the job market is definitely changing with these AI tools that are increasing efficiency. They're also reducing the need for entry-level programmers, as I just touched on. However, experienced programmers with specialized skills remain in high demand, and that's where that complex problem solving is going to come into play a little bit later when I touch on it. Opportunities for innovation. AI is enabling programmers to create applications faster and tackle projects that were previously out of reach for smaller teams. So when you think of innovation, don't think of innovation as something new, right? Not necessarily. It doesn't mean that we're creating something new because of AI. what is essentially going on here is that they're able to reduce the size of the teams to be able to focus on things that are more specific to the project, right? And that's where that automation and that complex problem solving skill is going to come into play. Challenges. So this is probably one of the things that when I first read this was like, you know, it's kind of broad. But programmers must continuously upskill to stay relevant in a rapidly evolving industry. So the ability to adapt and learn new technologies is becoming a critical factor for career longevity. These changes highlight both the opportunities and challenges programmers face in the age of AI. And the question that I kind of thought about was like, how do you see these shifts impacting your own work or your own interests? I'm not sure where everyone is at as far as like career level, education level, but it's definitely like a question to think about. Like, since you guys started and with everything that has been developing, have you guys noticed that your own interests have changed? You know, have you noticed that maybe the job that you wanted before is no longer a job that's relevant, or maybe no longer a job that even exists, right? Or is it a job that is under a freelance umbrella where you have to actually contract that service out, and it's not something that a traditional I would call it brick and mortar agency would offer to their clients, right? So that's one of the things, one of the questions that kind of stood out to me. But in the broad sense, right, programmers must continuously upskill to stay relevant. It made me think, what does that even mean, right? You're going to school, you're going through this course, you're going to get a certificate or a degree, you're going to transfer, go focus in on a major with an emphasis on it. So what does upskilling even mean? So I'm thinking of, well, what's practical to a programmer? What's practical to someone that's coming into this field? Well, coding skills, right? So coding skills are still highly valued, but their roles are evolving due to automation and AI advancements. And these are the areas that they're changing. The demand for specialized skills. So traditional coding is being supplemented. It's not being replaced, but it's being supplemented by expertise in areas like AI, machine learning, cloud computing, and skills in Python, Rust, and JavaScript still remain in high demand. So when you look at what language you have the most experience in, it's probably a safe bet to say become a master at that language. Because with AI, you can be a jack of all trades. You understand the concept of one language. You can kind of apply it to every other language, and that's where AI becomes your best friend. Is that you don't need to master every other language. You just need to master one, and you can use AI to automate everything else. And because you become specialized in one, you carve out your niche. So the automation impact, AI tools like GitHub, as we've explored pretty frequently in this club, Copilot, I use Copilot a lot. And Codium AI, that's a new one that I just came into, not too familiar with that. But Codium AI are automating repetitive coding tasks, enabling programmers to focus on more complex and creative aspects of development. And while this reduces the need for some entry-level coding tasks, it doesn't eliminate the need for skilled programmers. Again, it comes back to what is your specialty, right? What is your specialty, and how are you using AI with your specialty in mind? Augmentation, not replacement. So automation is enhancing productivity rather than replacing programmers outright. So when you hear a lot about like, programmers are being wiped out of the market, or there's like a certain job demographic that's being no longer sought after, that's just not the case. It's the redundancy of the people in those positions. If you have 100 people that are the jack of all trades, but you need someone that's proficient or a master in one particular language, or maybe in a particular skill set, and they can use AI to do what the other 100 people were doing, then chances are, as an organization, you're gonna look at, okay, if we eliminate these 100 people and just keep maybe 5 or 10 that have a specialty in different areas, each of their own, but can still use the AI, they have the scripts available to them, they have the repositories available to them for the software and the development that needs to be done, why not? Why not cut the fat and just keep the essence of what the project is, or what the organization is trying to do? So it's not replacing the skill or the need for programmers, it's just eliminating the repetitiveness, it's eliminating the redundancy of it. It's almost in a sense downscaling the size or the teams that organizations have because of AI. And then just as it says there, upskilling is key. And this upskilling is that programmers must adapt by learning new technologies and frameworks. The ability to integrate AI into applications and systems is becoming a core competency. So in essence, while automation is reshaping the landscape, it is also creating opportunities for programmers to innovate and specialize. So again, the innovation is not anything new, it's just how are you using what you're already good at to leverage, to make yourself stand out, right? And the question that comes to mind is, how do you see this aligning with your own career goals? So, like in the previous slide, it asked, well, how are your interests changing, right? Well, how are these changes aligning with what you want your career to be, right? Are you actually paying attention to what the market is telling you they want? Excuse me. Are you actually going in that same rhythm, in that same flow, or are you trying to go against it, right? Because if you go against it, it's definitely going to be difficult. It's not to say that you can't do what you want to do, but if you're trying to look for stability, if you're trying to look for something that's going to be able to help you pay the bills in this field, definitely want to look at how all of this aligns. Yeah, question.
So, I guess the takeaway is, rather than trying to learn a bunch of skills across the field, try to have a baseline understanding of the rest of the skills, but really dive deep into one or two of those areas.
From the research, that's what I would say. Yes, that's what I'm getting from what I was reading and looking at, right? Again, it's not to say that you have to do it, right? But it's like, what are your goals? What do you want to get out of it, right? And if your goal is, I want stability, I want to be with an organization that, let's say for example, your dream is to work with, Apple or Amazon or an application software development company, right? Like, what do they need? Where do they start? What's their story, right? And how do you fit in with that story? Whereas if you're looking to be a freelancer, you're looking to be independent, maybe you want to start your own thing, well then you have to think about, how does your story align with the current affairs of technology and with programming in general, right? So, to answer your question directly, yes, focus in on one or two things that are relevant to what your goals are. Because again, like it keeps reiterating, is that AI provides the ability for you to take the base level fundamentals of every programming language and utilize AI to be at least somewhat efficient with them, right? As long as you understand one language.
I have thought of the freelancing route as well, but we briefly thought about it, but I'm not sure if that's much of an option, because it seems like those who are freelancers already had a lot of industry experience.
There's a slide that addresses that question that will come up pretty shortly. So the one thing that I mentioned in the beginning was that it keeps reiterating this problem solving, right? Like, problem solving is like one of those tag words that employers look at when they're doing like an employee search, and they're trying to see this on a resume pop up to eliminate, or filter out candidates that don't meet this requirement. But then when you get down to the grit of it, right, well, what does this problem solving even look like? How are you gonna present this in an interview to someone, right? Or how are you gonna even show this in your work? So, when I was looking at this problem solving, it went actually more in depth than what I was anticipating. So I kind of just went at a base level for the entry level position as to what this problem solving looks like. Because I feel like if you can get the entry level aspect of problem solving, then your current experience with work and with school, and if you're continuing education to like a university and going for like a master's or PhD or whatever, it's gonna come along with that journey. But at an entry level, in the computer science related industries, the top 3 most valuable problem solving skills are analytical thinking, which is breaking down the complex problems into manageable steps, and then identifying patterns that are crucial for debugging and optimizing systems. 2, technical troubleshooting, which is the expertise in resolving coding errors, system glitches, and performance issues that helps entry-level professionals quickly contribute to projects. And then adaptability and proactive learning, the ability to learn new tools and technologies while adjusting to the evolving job requirements that sets entry-level candidates apart. And when you look at the analytical thinking, right, I think the past couple of months, when we were going over the SFML projects and we're looking at the code and we're trying to figure out what's going wrong, why is it not running, why is it not functioning, why is it not executing the things that I wanted to execute. At a base level, that's what they're looking for. Can you think this through, right? And can you explain it? Can you walk someone else through that same process? Because if a supervisor asks you, hey, why did you adjust this? Why did you change this, right? Then you'll be able to walk them through that change. Technical troubleshooting, even though you're entry level, there's gonna be some part of autonomy that supervisors are gonna give you and they expect you to exercise. They're paying you a good amount of money to come in ready to work, right? And part of that work is fixing your mistakes. Fixing mistakes that maybe you didn't cause, but that were already there, right? And if you're resolving coding errors, if you can identify system glitches, right, then you contribute, as I said, you contribute to those projects. That's what they want. They're paying you, can you provide more value? Can you provide the value that they're paying you for? Adaptability and proactive learning as we continue going forward. And as it emphasizes in the previous slide, is just stay up to date with how the market is changing. And as you'll notice, even though a lot of the emphasis is what the current trends are or what the market is asking for, a lot of it has to do with you as an individual that sets you apart from everyone else. At the end of the day, you are your own brand. Even though you might get a check from somebody, the company doesn't owe you loyalty, right? So a company may hit rock bottom and have to lay people off, but how are you gonna be able to bounce back from that? Well, you have to be able to stay on top of the curve. You have to know where the benchmark is and go beyond the benchmark for what other organizations are gonna want. So one of those things is team collaboration. Team collaboration, when it comes to like participating in code reviews, is very valuable from what I was seeing. Because one, as a candidate, you want to have an online presence. As you were touching on previously, you were mentioning a lot of these freelancers were already with industry experience, right? Like they already had years of it. And sometimes you add this experience by simply just doing things on your own, right? Or being a part of the club and working on projects with the club. You're giving yourself that chance to get that experience. So you want to have an online presence, LinkedIn, Indeed, GitHub, right? Social media, creating tutorials, walkthroughs, reviews of apps, open source software, things of that nature. You wanna be able to apply what you've learned, what you know, and what you're confident in to things that are in use on a daily basis, or in the circles that you are involved in, right? With that online presence, you allow yourself networking opportunities, and you build up some credibility. One of the things that I've come to learn with LinkedIn, or at least I discovered, I should say, because I use LinkedIn a lot, is that LinkedIn will begin sending you prompts and questions with other people that have a similar industry background as you, or that are involved in the same space as you, maybe similar networks and stuff like that. And essentially what that does is it allows you to give your opinion and your thoughts and your input, your insight on certain questions that are trending among employers, or among recruiters, or among professionals in that space. And it gets seen, it gets publicized, it goes around. And you become a credible source for that information, for that insight. For example, we have a speaker panel coming on the 18th that's going to be discussing the very insights that their organizations have to offer, with these various careers that you have available to you in the computer science industry. And we go to them as a credible source because, one, they're public figures, or they're just in it on a day-to-day basis where they have a public relationship. The role of coding reviews is also very valuable because you validate skills, you provide quality assurance, and there's feedback and growth that's involved. So you're not only giving feedback, but you're also receiving feedback, right? And these elements create a comprehensive picture of your capabilities and potential as a candidate. So again, it all comes into your presence and your feedback and your growth, really, when it comes down to it. Now, if you already have work experience, right, you're not just a student, but you have some sort of experience before, regardless of what it is, sharing knowledge and mentoring is very valuable. This is one of the most, I would say, put off things on resumes. When I was a manager in the insurance industry, and people are coming from a crossover industry, I would always ask them, what kind of volunteer work do you do? What do you do on the side to further your education, or what are you involved in? What are your hobbies? Because a lot of the time, I can get an understanding of what someone is truly interested in, what they're more inclined to, and what their pursuits are. Again, you go into an interview trying to sell yourself, and every employer knows that. You're going to try to say all the right things, but are you the right fit, right? Aside from checking off all the boxes, what is the value that you bring as a person to the work culture, to the environment? So, for someone with prior work experience but new to the computer science industry, the principles of online presence and coding reviews can be leveraged effectively to demonstrate adaptability and transferable skills. Again, the online presence and the coding reviews still apply to this. When I was sharing my attempt to try to change the inputting functions from the mouse to the keyboard for SFML, right? I didn't know what the hell I was doing for the most part. I just knew where I can go to try to find that information and try to find the sample code to implement. I knew I can go to AI, I knew I can prompt it, and I knew I can try to get something similar to what was in the SFML project, right? Even though it was broken, even though I didn't successfully go in all the way, the fact that I was able to bring it to the club meeting and present it, and we all were able to walk through it, that's a troubleshooting skill, that's an analytical skill, but with the experience knowing that I can rely on a team of other people that are more experienced than me. And that's what employers want to see. They don't want to see perfect. They want to see, do you know what to do? Do you know the steps to take to actually get to the results that we're trying to get to, right? And if you're someone that shows I can find answers, I don't have the answers, but I can find the answers, then that becomes even much more valuable than just all the boxes being checked. You definitely wanna showcase your learning journey, right? And you wanna showcase your network. The references are very important when you're someone crossing over from one industry to another. Coding reviews, again, what I just touched on, learn through feedback, build credibility, and demonstrate a growth mindset. No matter how much you know, there's always someone that knows more. It's just the nature of the world. So then, the other side that comes into play is project management, because a lot of the times you're going to be given a project to work on when it comes to this field. And the two things that were very essential to project management, even at an entry level, maybe you might not be the project manager per se, but you need to know what they expect. You need to know what is, what you're coming into. Breaking down tasks. So in computer science projects like software development, AI integration, or cybersecurity systems, it involves numerous interconnected tasks and dependencies. And project management ensures that these complexities are addressed methodically. So as creative as we like to be, we also have to fall in line where we have to fall in line. And that goes through the software development cycle. It goes through the application development process. All of those have their certain steps that you have to go through to be able to ensure that you're complying and to be able to ensure that you're on the same page as everyone else. And breaking down those tasks is not just breaking down the task for yourself, but also know what your other team members have as a responsibility and where you can help. Managing multiple priorities. Many computer science fields operate in agile environments. Familiarity with these methodologies is crucial for managing iterative development cycles and adapting to changes and delivering incremental value. And the key word there is incremental, because you don't want to throw everything that you know at once. You want to show what you're capable of step by step. Prove yourself to be reliable during these projects and during these assignments. Don't try to say, oh, I can do it all. Just give me the whole project. I can do it all. No. You want to be able to manage what is truly a priority and what you know you can handle with the time that you've been given, the deadline that you've been given. Another one is software testing. I'm not too familiar with software testing, so I relied a lot on the research to kind of tell me what this entails. But conducting unit testing and writing automated tests were like two of the things that were shown as like a very big emphasis. The highlights here being that you gotta learn the basics, understand the software development cycle and the role testing plays within it, understand the testing types, so familiarize yourself with manual testing, automated testing, unit testing, integration testing, and regression testing. And then the key tools to have are getting hands-on experience with popular tools like Selenium, which is something that I've never heard of before, not too familiar with. JUnit, not too familiar with that. TestNG, not familiar with that. And Postman for APIs, and Jira for issue tracking. So apparently these are all tools and applications that I would assume are AI based. Just from the fact that a programmer may have to encounter this, and it might have to do checking work and analyzing work as well, since it's software related. Writing automated tests. So they honed in on the writing of automated tests for these 7 reasons: efficiency and speed, accuracy and reliability, scalability, cost effectiveness, reusability, integration with CI/CD pipelines, supporting agile and DevOps methodologies. So in summary, automated testing not only improves efficiency, but also enhances the overall quality and reliability of software, making it indispensable in modern development workflows. Excuse me. All right, Professor Marsh, are you familiar with any of these tools that they brought up, like the Selenium and JUnit? or anything like that?
I've got a little bit of experience with JUnit,
Okay.
because that's built in Java. I don't cover it directly in my classes, but I do cover the concept of unit testing.
Okay.
It is possible to just do unit testing manually. In fact, that's what I have my students do because it's good practice. What these automatic tools do is they automate it as much as possible. And even more importantly, a lot of systems, like programming environments, are built to cooperate with these, like the JUnit and whatever the other one was, so that they'll actually give you it'll actually collate the data and tell you how things are passing.
Okay.
I mean, it all sounds very fancy and complicated, but I mean, the concept behind unit testing is just writing a program that tells you whether another program you wrote is working. So you just say, I'm writing this program, I'm gonna write this other one which uses that one and says, does it work right? If I put in 2 and 2, does it give me 4? So and the advantage of that is just, let's say you then go make a change to your original program, you add to it, you change it. Then you run your automated test, and you already wrote it, it's done. You just say go, it goes brrr and says, whoops, you made a mistake, 2 plus 2 is not 5, go fix that, and then you're like, oh, I didn't know, thank you program, and you go fix it, and it's done. So, it's something that you'll, hopefully, if you take my class, you'll get a little bit of it, but hopefully in other classes you'll also get a little bit of experience with that kind of testing. Yeah.
Does anyone have experience with unit testing on their own, outside? No? A little bit?
Yeah, I built a unit test for one of my classes.
Okay. How was that experience for you?
I like that it got me to really think about all the test cases, or all the ways the program can go wrong.
Okay.
Or as well, and probably I almost definitely didn't catch everything, but it's a great exercise to help me understand what's going on at a deeper level.
So what are some of the technology trends? Well, biggest one, artificial intelligence, large language models. AI is reshaping industry, and LLMs like ChatGPT are driving innovation and automation, customer service, and content creation. Quantum computing is another one. So the emerging practical applications in data science, encryption, and medicine, zero trust security. There's also a growing focus on cybersecurity measures. That's a realm for me that I'm diving deeper into, is zero trust. And edge computing. Cloud computing is moving closer to the edge for faster processing. Is anyone familiar with edge computing?
I never used edge computing, but I did briefly look into it.
Okay.
Isn't it where a lot of the computations aren't really in a centralized location, but more there's more processors just spread out away from the system?
Yeah. It's how would I say it? It's distributing the workload. It's distributing the processing load out. And it's not relying on just one. Like you said, it's not just relying on just one. With cloud computing and cloud as a software, cloud as a service, infrastructure-wise, you'll begin to see that being more and more the case as time goes on. Now, to freelancing and jobs. What's the hope for us, all of our students? Hoping to get a job in something that we're studying or interested in. Well, growth projections. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics projects faster than average growth in computer and IT occupations, with 356,700 openings annually
Heck, yeah.
Yeah? I'm still looking for work though.
We're working on that.
Still looking for a job. The challenges are economic uncertainty and layoffs. So as these openings are coming annually, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's candidates that are qualified for these openings, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that these openings are jobs that can be filled, right? These are just what's out there on the market, what's being offered on the market, right? The type of jobs, the type of industry, roles that are there. And the economic uncertainties and the layoffs in these major tech companies is certainly because they know what their plans are for the future. They know how they're going to scale their development and their operations, right? And the bigger the company is, obviously, the more that they employ, right? But they're always going to look at their overhead. And the biggest overhead cost that an organization has is the human labor force. So that's why we see these large openings, right? Year to year, is because the turnover rate is high. One job becomes relevant, another one becomes irrelevant. So that's always going to be the revolving door, and it's something to take with a grain of salt. However, again, we go back to your specialized skill. What are you good at? What are you going to be a master at, right? What's going to set you apart from everyone else applying for the same job? Well, you have a demand for specialized skills in AI, machine learning, cloud computing, and cybersecurity. The impact of AI by 2030 is 70% of all job skills will have changed due to AI. You cannot fight it. It's just the nature of how this industry is going. If you're not getting familiar with AI, if you're not making AI your best friend, hey, you will hate AI because it's taking everything that you've been studying hard. Shift to contract work. Companies are increasingly hiring contract professionals for AI, cybersecurity, and software development roles. As you were mentioning, right, about the freelance, you were saying, well, there's a lot of people that already have established their industry experience. It doesn't stop you from being a freelancer. You have to start somewhere, right? And there's no better way to start to be a freelancer than to go to an organization like a small mom and pop shop that doesn't have maybe a web designer, that doesn't have an app that you can develop an app for, right? That's how these startups come into play. That's how these startups sell their businesses to larger entities, is because they address a need that's local, and then they're able to scale it because they get the funding, whether it's crowdfunding, whether it's angel investments, whether it's capital ventures, whether it's conglomerations. The money's out there, the opportunities are out there. It's just finding your lane when it comes to that. And then again, this word upskilling trends. Organizations prioritize upskilling over new hires to address competency gaps. What does that mean? They're willing to invest in training their current employees over hiring new ones. So they might post a job posting, right, where we see these 356,700 openings. Again, that's why I say not all the openings are fillable, because they will post these openings to get the competition, right, to see what's out there. But if they have someone that takes on maybe like, hey, we'll give you an extra $10,000 raise. Are you willing to take on this extra responsibility? We're looking to downsize the department, and we need you to take on this task or this project. Sure, an extra $10,000 raise a year. All right, what do I have to do? Just go through this 8-week course to get certified, right? A lot of jobs are willing to do that.
About crypto.
Huh?
About crypto.
What do you mean crypto?
Is that where those jobs are at?
Crypto's a scam.
Exactly.
If you're incredibly lucky, you might gamble and win big, but otherwise crypto is a scam. I don't mean to be harsh about it. Like, it doesn't work, like, it worked out for a few people 10 years ago. People are losing money. Don't get into crypto.
No, the top 10 paying entry-level positions, and again, my focus is entry-level.
Where's that? Leave it up.
Software engineers are making an average of $132,270 a year. User experience designers are $98,500 a year. Quality assurance analysts, 101. Data scientists, 108. Web developers, 77.
Is that a real number, 132? That seems inflated, no?
It probably is inflated.
Good.
But that's the thing too. It's like a lot of these salaries, because there's legacy, what they call like legacy employees or like legacy level.
So there's just some software engineers making too much, making the rest of the
Yes.
values look good.
Yes, that's a real thing. That's a very.
Software engineers do make a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's like, that number was true even when I was in the job field.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it could also be inflated because, the entry-level positions are a bit more advanced than they used to be because, a lot of those before entry-level positions, they're like being replaced by AI.
Mhm.
Because a lot of those developers weren't really like super high skilled and entry-level is the bar's higher now.
No, and I think, I might have said this on one of the slides, said it previously. Upskilling is always sought after, right? Upskilling is always sought after, even to a candidate that isn't with the organization. They want to know, what are you currently doing right now that's going to continue to further your growth, right? And an example of this is me, when I had an interview with an IT agency. And the IT agency told me flat out, like, we don't need you to have the certifications. We can teach you everything you need to know in-house. That's not the issue. The issue is, how are you gonna stay relevant as our organization grows, right? Because we can teach you everything to be a help desk person, right, entry level wise, but as you're doing this job, what else are you gonna be doing to continue on? And obviously, me telling them, hey, I'm in college, I'm pursuing a degree, and this is my goal, it was appealing to them, So, them understanding, okay, we have someone that we don't really have to invest the training into as far as like getting them up to speed necessarily to where we want our other employees to be, because he's already doing that himself. He's already taking that initiative himself. All we need to do is just get them onboarded and know what the work culture and the expectations of the workplace is, right? And that's where that, as you're saying, right, the benchmark is now higher because, hey, we have this degree, we expect you to kind of come in no longer as a rookie per se, right? We expect you to already have something, under your belt essentially, when you're coming into an organization, which is where that freelancing comes into place. Because that freelancing, you actually get to find and make your way with real life work, right? As small as it may be, it's still real work. And that's not something to make smaller. Yeah.
I know freelancing, something that, what do you think of working on open source projects? Because, I'm not really the best at searching for freelancing jobs, but I did try contributing to open source projects as a way to get experience. But I'm not sure if that's really that impactful or not.
Yeah, document that. Document all of it, because maybe some things aren't relevant to a certain position that you're applying for, but you'll never know when that experience in that particular project will come in useful, right? Maybe it's an organization that uses the very same open source software or application that you just did that you just worked on. And you can be like, oh, I found this, in the code, maybe like a few months back, and I was able to, fix it or whatever, and stuff like that. Or I was able to, tune it up and make it this, What in the cybersecurity side, pen testing is that all the time. If you can go to an organization that has like a bounty program and find bugs and things that can compromise the app or whatever they have going on, and you bring that to the organization, they'll pay you. Because that's one vulnerability that they don't have to no longer worry about. You know, that's valuable. And you may not be hired by them, but you now put that on your resume and you can say, I just literally found this bug in Google's search engine, you know, or I found this bug in ChatGPT or Copilot. And here's how I did it, right? Document. Yep. And what are the skills, the top 10 skills that you can come into a job with, right? Not all of these have to be congruent, not all of them go together per se, but these are just the top 10 that employers are looking at in just in a general view. AI, machine learning is one, and I would say that's probably the one that in any job you should have kind of with it. Cloud computing is another. Cybersecurity, programming languages like Python, Java, C++, data analysis and visualization, software development, multi-cloud management, blockchain technology, I would say would probably be another one, just with how prevalent crypto is. And then human-computer interaction, and I'm assuming the human-computer interaction is going to be more like user experience and just practicality and application in environments, especially with like virtual reality and augmented reality. And then algorithms and data structures. Algorithms and data structures, I would say, is another one that would probably go hand in hand with AI and machine learning. So yeah. Thank you. Any thoughts, comments? Anyone buying Bitcoin or?
Yeah, crypto, bro.
Yeah.
Blockchain.
Nope. Is there anything that anyone wants to share?
Give me a minute. I've got some data. So every year, us faculty are forced. It's important, but we are forced to go. We have to attend what they call the ICT advisory meeting, which is basically all the tech companies here in Sacramento presenting to all the schools about what they want out of the students who are graduating. So I'm trying to find the data that was sent for that presentation from this last fall. Just give me a minute.